I'll call this meeting to order. It's 4:05, and let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now, let's see, let me do it this way.
And Jerry, I'll go ahead and share my screen so that we can see the agenda.
All right. So just a little info about this. In one of the phone calls Sherry and I had, it came up in the course of the discussion about posting the agenda. We all know that it's posted at every site and on the web page. And if we were doing our regular, however long ago that was, meeting, we could have copies of the agenda where if people from the public came, they could pick up a copy and sit and watch the board meeting. So we thought we would try having the agenda posted for portions of the meeting so that people that in this particular case now Zoom in, they can follow along with where we are in our meeting. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll talk about it at the end and see if it's something we want to continue to incorporate. So having said that, I'll move on to item 1.2, adopting the agenda. Are there any corrections or adjustments that need to be made to the agenda as posted?
I have none. I have none.
Okay.
None.
So, good. So, is there a motion?
I would move that we adopt the agenda as posted.
Is there a motion? Is there
motion? I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay. Bianca made the second first, Rosemary. So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as posted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I also approve. Motion carries. Moving on to item 2, consent agenda. 2.1, consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Humboldt Charter School. 2.2, consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. 2.3, consideration of approval of minutes for the December 10th and January 14th board meetings. 2.4, consideration of resignations, hires, leaves, and change of assignments.
Jerry, I just want to jump in real quick and just give a little heads up or some background information. And I think I put this in our background information in the board packet. I included the December 10th meeting minutes in here. You did approve those in the January board meeting, but after they were adopted and after Bianca signed them, she noticed an error, as did I. And so since there were 2 errors, I went ahead and corrected those errors, and I'm bringing them back to be readopted. One error was the date in the year for the next board meeting. It said January 14th, 2020 rather than 2021. That was kind of a minor one. And then the other error was, actually it was kind of just a typo. There was a circle rather than a dash in a particular place in the minutes. And so I just went ahead and made both those corrections. They're very minor, but I just went ahead and decided to bring them back anyway. So that's why you're seeing those December 10th minutes again. And like I said, I think I included all of this information already in the background sheets. But
Okay, thank you. Any correction? Comments on the 4 items in the consent agenda?
I have none.
Rosemary has raised her hand, Jerry.
Okay, Rosemary?
I have a question about the gal that resigned from Wairika. Has that position been filled? Is there plans to replace her?
No, she actually never really worked at all this year. She went on leave at the beginning of the school year. So her caseload, her student caseload was spread out at that time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted.
Is there a second?
I'll second
that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
I also approve. Motion carries. Consent agenda adopted. Moving on to item 3, public comments on items not on the agenda. Under this item, the public is invited to address the board regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Please keep your comments concise, brief, and limited to 3 minutes. The board is not allowed under the law to take action on matters that are not on the agenda. Should comments from the public pertain to a charge or complaint against an employee of Northern United Humboldt Charter School or Northern United Siskiyou Charter School, the board encourages the speaker to utilize the school's written complaint procedures to pursue the matter. The public will have an opportunity to comment on all agenda items as those are heard today. There any public comments? Anybody attending that would like to make a comment? Okay, apparently there are none. So we'll move on to Section 4, action items to be considered. 4.1 is approval of the reopening criteria. Jerry?
Okay, I have stopped sharing my screen for the agenda because I thought it might be easier. We can see each other bigger when the agenda is not shared. Also, there's some other things that I want to share with you for this agenda item. So as you guys recall, and I put this background in the background information in the board packet, you have approved reopening criteria for our schools. It's a list of criteria that the county and the schools must meet before we can reopen for in-person instruction. And then we have a phased opening approach. I am recommending that we take a look at that reopening criteria again and possibly tweak it. I have a couple options to suggest. And the reason I think that it's time to look at that reopening criteria again with new eyes is because the vaccination process has started for both schools. In Siskiyou County, all staff who wanted the vaccine, I think, has been able to get the first dose. They've had quite a few clinics for school employees to be able to get that. As far as I know, everyone who wanted it has been able to get it. And so in the next, I'd say 3 weeks or so, everyone will have gotten their second dose or pretty close. So you guys remember our reopening criteria, the way that it's written right now is actually more restrictive than the counties or the state guidelines. The reopening criteria we adopted said we can't open unless we're in the orange or yellow tiers, where the state actually, California Department of Public Health, released guidance in January that says grades TK through 6 can open in the purple tier if we're under 25 out of 100,000 case rate, and students in 7th through 12th grade can open in the red tier. So I know that when we first had our reopening criteria, voted on our reopening criteria, we were very concerned about the safety of students and staff. And I just wonder if maybe things have changed a little bit now that the vaccine is here. I gave you the update for Siskiyou. Everybody in Siskiyou who wanted it has been able to get the first dose. And in Humboldt, it has started. Some of the staff, all of the staff who are currently working in person with students, so our students who are getting one-on-one intervention, either because they have an IEP or they just had a greater need for whatever reason, all of those staff members now have been able to get the first dose. And then the first clinic for everybody else is happening this Saturday, so day after tomorrow. And there weren't enough appointments for everybody who wants one to get vaccinated. As of right now, I know there are 5 staff members who didn't get to sign up for that first clinic, but there will be more clinics. So I think we're right on the cusp in Humboldt, too, of everyone who wanting it getting that first vaccine. So again, that puts us out mid to late March by the time everybody's had both doses and the 10 days following that to get to the full effectiveness level. So I'm just wondering if we want to reconsider our reopening criteria. I'm going to share my screen to show you our current reopening criteria. And then I'll show you kind of what I thought for possible new criteria. So you remember what was adopted. Number 1, county positivity rate and adjusted case rate, 3% or lower in the prior 7-day period, and adjusted case rate over the last 7-day period remains below 5. The second one was the county is at an overall community risk level of minimal or moderate for 1 week. Then the school facilities will open. If county is at an overall community risk level of widespread or substantial for any amount of time, the school facilities will close. So that's the red and purple. Number 3 was the majority, 51% of the schools within the county are doing a hybrid approach or have open facilities. Number 4, each facility is equipped with a 3-month supply of PPE, an air purification system, and a cleaning schedule that allows for staff and student health and safety. Number 5, a necessary number of staff required to support cohorts as described by the state public health cohort guidance. Number 6, 100% of staff must complete COVID-19 and integrated pest management training. And number 7, centers must submit and have approved a center-specific reopening plan. So my thought, as time has gone on since we've adopted this criteria, is 1 and 2 are actually kind of redundant, because that county positivity rate and adjusted case rate is what determines the tiers for number 2. So those 2 are in a sense one and the same. So with that in mind, let me share now this next, my proposal here, and we can go through it. Okay. All right. So I have 2 options, and both of these proposals are for once all staff who want to be vaccinated have been vaccinated. That's kind of the floor here. Because if we weren't looking at that, I don't know that we would be looking at changing our reopening criteria anyway. But so that's kind of the floor. So here's the first option. Basically, what I did is I combined 1 and 2 from our current reopening, that positivity rate and the tier level, into this number 1, which says follow the governor's reopening guidance, which is reopening schools for cohorts for grades TK through 6 when the case rate is less than 25 per 100,000 for 5 consecutive days, and for grades 7 through 12 once the county is in the red tier. So that's kind of instead of 1 and 2. All the rest are the same, though I do make a note here. For that second one, the majority of the schools within the county are doing a hybrid approach or have open facilities. I feel like that one we could eliminate. We all know the rationale we had for when we put that in there. It was kind of through a liability lens, the idea of, were we doing something that most schools in the same set of facts would be doing? I think now that we have the guidance from the governor that was given out from the California Department of Public Health in January, I think we have it's pretty clear guidance. And I think it can be seen as reasonable for us to follow that guidance, regardless of what other schools are doing at the time. So number 2, I could see possibly eliminating. But so this is one option. Second option, instead of opening for TK to 6 in cohorts when we meet that particular case rate, and in the red tier for 7 through 12, instead waiting for the red tier for all grade levels. So that's what the number 1 is, reopening schools for cohorts when the counties reach the red tier. And then in this one, I did take out that majority of the schools within the county are doing a hybrid approach, but that could easily be put in here for this option as well. So that's the background information. I recommend option 1, though administration and staff would be fine with either. I feel like the state's guidelines for the guidance on reopening for TK through 6 with that case rate once everybody is vaccinated, I think we're comfortable with that. So I'm going to stop sharing, I think, but I can always go back to that if you wanted to see that again.
Thank you, Sherry. Very well laid out as far as the current state of affairs. Are there any questions or comments for Sherry?
I got one, Sherry.
Yeah.
So where are we sitting at? I'm pretty good with the upper part of those statements. Where are we at on 5 and 6, the training, and then the opening plan at each facility?
Right. We are in great shape. In Siskiyou, we have the reopening plan for all the centers. And in terms of the training, we have one staff member who has not yet finished the COVID training, and two staff members, no, I'm going to back that up. Two staff members haven't finished the COVID training, and one staff member has not finished the integrated pest management. But we just discovered the reason for that in going through that. One of those staff members was not receiving the email for the training. The training is through Keenan Safe Schools, and an email is sent, and they were not receiving that. So I think we've fixed that problem today. Linda's nodding her head because she was the one that fixed that problem today. So we are right there with Siskiyou. That will be taken care of very shortly. And that one person, I think the part of the reason that we didn't realize that the email wasn't working. It's someone who is very, very part-time. I think, just a few hours a week they work for us. And so that was the situation there. And then in Humboldt, very similar. We have one center that hasn't turned in the reopening plan yet, but they have finished it. They had a staff meeting just this past week where they finished it, and the center lead there is typing it up and getting it to me right away. So we're very close. We'll definitely have that before we're ready to open. And then in terms of the training, very similar again to Siskiyou, we have, I think, two staff members, and I have it right here. Let me look and see so I can just tell you for sure. In Humboldt, we have three staff members who have not finished the COVID training, and 4 staff members who have not finished the integrated pest management. I think 3 of those staff members, it was the same situation. Linda's telling me 2 of those staff members didn't have the email for the training. And so that's been resolved today. And then one of the other staff members is a new hire. And it's a fairly new hire. And so that person hasn't completed it yet. So we're very close on both of those. And then in terms of the other criteria, like the PPE, we're there. We have all the air purifications. We have all the MERV filters and all the PPE that's needed. We have enough staff to staff all of the cohorts that we would be having. So I think we're in pretty good shape on all of it.
That was my other question about the filtration process of it. I know Eureka schools are amping up a partial return to school after the holiday, after next week. So, and they're kind of in that same mode, moving along with all basically the same plan that we have. I've talked to some of the people on the board. So, yeah. Good job.
Rosemary, I saw your hand is up too, your digital hand.
You had said that the staff would be fine with option 1 or option 2. Mm-hmm. Have you had any more dialogue or polling of the staff of their overall consensus of moving forward and actually opening in person?
We haven't done a survey lately, like a whole school survey lately. It's just been individual staff meetings. So like at each learning center, when they have their staff meetings, discussions happen there. But we certainly could do another whole school staff. It's very, it's very possible that somebody's, no.
I would think that at staff meetings that is an appropriate place to voice their concerns or displeasure, pleasure. So you guys would have a handle on all of that. No point in reinventing that wheel.
Well, and I think it's the idea that we're talking about once everybody who wants it has both doses of the vaccine. We're not asking anybody to do that, to come back prior to that, to be seeing students in person unless they want to. So I think that adds a layer of comfort that wasn't there before.
Right.
Any other questions for Sherry? Is there a motion?
I do have a question, actually. Remind me when spring break is?
Sure. Spring break is April 12th through the 16th.
And do you think that everybody will have their vaccines plus the 10 days would be at the end of March?
I do. Of course, we have to qualify that with it is absolutely contingent on the counties getting enough of the vaccine and all of that. But if things continue at the pace that they're going right now, it seems like we would be there between mid to late March. Now, something Kirk pointed out, which I thought was a good point, is learning period 8 starts March 29th. And so it would be kind of nice maybe to be able to start at the beginning of a learning period. But, if for some reason we have everybody's vaccinated and is at that full effectiveness, level prior to that, I don't see why we couldn't do it before that. But I would think that maybe would be the target around March 29th. Like I said, barring the county not getting enough vaccine to get our second doses or something.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any more questions? Is there a motion?
Maybe it would help for me to share my screen again with that proposal before somebody makes a motion, because then they have a frame of reference. Of course, you're welcome to make a different motion, but one of those something on here might jog your memory or something. Okay.
Well, if we can just start by making a motion, and then if it's seconded, then we can have further discussion on the motion that's being made. And if it needs to be amended, then the maker of the motion can revise their motion. So, all these technical ways to approach it.
Yeah. So I would make a motion that we accept option 1 on revamping our reopening guidance schedule.
Reopening criteria.
Criteria, thank you.
Not a problem. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, any further discussion? Bianca, Rosemary, Jeff?
I'm good.
I guess, I have a little bit of reservation of going with it. I know that it wouldn't be until I understand that until everybody is vaccinated, staff is vaccinated, that is. I suppose it's mostly because the options are just now being presented, so I haven't had time to ruminate on them, and I don't know what the rest of the governor's reopening guidance is, other than the sentence that is in front of me. And I'm a whole picture sort of person. However, with that being said, I understood that we could also change this at our March meeting, which will likely come before we hit this, these marks. So just throwing that out there.
Oh, thank you. Because that's really important. This is a big deal. There's so much pressure and discussion locally, statewide, nationwide about getting students back into school. So, we have to hear everybody's perspective. Any other comments about the motion? So, motion. I'd just like to say I believe the time has come because of the rollout of the vaccination program in bits and pieces. People are getting their first shot, and some have already received their second shot. And I personally am very comfortable with the outline of option one. I mean, it boils down to that every center needs to follow through and have their plan, where every center is going to have the proper ventilation and proper PPE, and everybody will complete the program and training, and it's just a matter of everybody receiving the vaccines, and we just move forward from there. And it's just hopefully it's just right around the corner. I know personally, my wife has an appointment to get her shot next week, and mine will be shortly thereafter. And so I know that there's been a push to vaccinate people in education and educators. So I think it's, we're being proactive, and, we've set the stage, we're staying on top of it. And we've also always built in for us the caveat. And that's what Bianca is raising. And so we have that option in March for hopefully maybe one or not at all last tweak of the criteria, so that we can get our centers back open and get back to business, so to speak. So if there's no further comments or discussion,
I
close
have a question, Jerry.
Okay.
Would staff members who are not vaccinated, would they be in our centers? Has that been thought or talked about, Sherry?
Yes, if they're willing to be, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, vaccination has not been made mandatory by you guys.
Yeah, that's that's a whole nother, in a way, topic.
Totally.
You have to. Well, that's a discussion for another time. Well, that one small slice. So if there's nothing further, I'll call for the question. So it's been moved and seconded. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I also approve. Motion carries. Very good, folks. 4.2, approval of the NUCS Comprehensive Safe Schools Plan. Sherry?
Okay. Yeah, and you guys have seen this every year. It's always on the February board meeting because we have to have it adopted by March. And this year, because we did such a thorough job on it last year, I believe it was, this year, all that was required was updating staff names and dates. So as you recall, we have the full document of the Comprehensive Safe Schools. And then as like appendices, we have kind of a smaller version for each individual learning center that's appropriate to that or specific to that particular learning center. And so some staff roles, some different, there's different staff members this year than last year. And so some roles have changed. And so the names have been updated to reflect who is doing those particular jobs now, and then the years. But other than that, there's nothing has changed, no substantive changes. It's exactly the same.
Does anybody have any questions for Sherry?
Rosemary's hand's up.
Well, I don't really have some questions, but I have a couple of comments. Reading over this, this is an outstanding document. It just explains everything. It shows how much time and energy went into this, and I felt that it was good reading.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. And that being said, I do have some corrections.
Okay. I knew you would, Rosemary. You wouldn't let me down.
I don't know whether you'd like to go through them. So I'll make it really, really fast if you'd like to follow along with me.
I'm ready.
First one being on page 8. Okay, go down to the third bullet from the bottom. That should be a capital D. Do you see that?
Yep.
And I apologize for not catching these things before now. And then the last bullet, starting with including duck and cover, I think that needs to zip around there.
Yeah.
Then if we go to page 20, the very first line, I think it should be suspension shall be, not he.
Yes.
And now we're going to jump to page 30.
All right.
Are we there?
Yep.
Yes.
We are going to talk about discrimination, that second block. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4th line where it has Northern United Humboldt Charter School.
Oh.
Should that just be Northern United Charter Schools?
Yeah. Yep.
You're right.
Good, because I don't think that should be site specific.
Yep. Agreed.
And on page 31, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 the same.
I see that.
Do you see that on the second paragraph?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
2 in the third paragraph.
Yep.
And then the very last word or line there.
Yeah.
Right.
On page 32, it's the lead in, the very first.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. And now.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you.
I guess you could do a search in the document for NU-HCS to see if there are other ones that that would pop up. That'd be one easy way to find them.
If you go to page 34, the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet, I think staff will ask all visitors. I think that we should have without in there. Because we're talking about visitors registering at the
Yes.
office.
Yes, I think you're right.
Right. Because otherwise it does,
It doesn't make sense.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Page 35, we have Valerie Walsh's name there in the box.
We sure do.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Thank you. I thought we got all those ones. Okay.
Let's see here. If we go now to page 45, the last line of number 4 has NUHCS.
Yep.
We're getting to the end, folks. Page 47, same thing on the, let's see, 1, 2, okay.
I see it. I see it.
48, same thing, second line, midway.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move to 64. I don't think that there should be an apostrophe in that first paragraph after schools on either one of those.
I agree.
And then I have a question on page 71. Right at the top, and then also towards the bottom there, we call it a drop, cover, and hold on. And throughout the document, namely on 69 and 70, it's referred to as a duck and cover. So is it a drop and cover or is it a duck and cover?
Where's the duck?
The
Page
duck would
70 for one place, or yeah.
the
And
duck
69.
would be 69 and again on 70.
Yeah.
Called, we
Right.
state it as duck and cover, but in the big 5, we
Right.
call it a drop and cover as well as
Good. Very good.
down towards the bottom. And I think we should be consistent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the document, but how it's conveyed to our students as well.
Right.
If there was an earthquake. And that's the end of the document.
So I would change it all to drop, cover, hold on. So just so you guys know, that's what it should be.
Okay. Good reading. Thank you.
Amazing,
I'll be
Rosemary.
sure to let Julie know that you thought that it was very thorough and well done because she's the one that spent so much time on it.
Oh, yes, yes. And having in my past life read a lot of these,
Yeah.
this was not a boring read.
Okay, well, I will certainly make those changes to the original.
Good job, Rosemary.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Any other comments? About the Safe Schools plan? So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the comprehensive safe schools plan with the edits suggested by Rosemary.
I'll second.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion? I'd like to say that I concur with Rosemary. In a previous life, when these things first were coming on the scene, having the responsibility for drafting such a document for the old Jacobs Education Center, and then being administrator where items, many of the items that are in ours applied to a situation. I can really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the thoroughness that Julie put into this, and we're much better because of that effort. This is what guides us, and when you get into awkward situations, which you never ever can anticipate, we're covered. So from my perspective and experience, I do appreciate it as just the document and understand the effort and what it takes to put one of these plans together. So
Yes.
Kudos. So it's been moved and seconded. And to adopt it with its editing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I also approve. Motion carries. Moving on to 4.3. Approval of the Humboldt Del Norte SELPA local plan. Sherry?
Okay, as you guys know, Northern United Humboldt Charter School is part of the Humboldt Del Norte SELPA. And the SELPA, I included this in the board background sheet, but essentially all members of the SELPA need to, all the boards of the members of the SELPA have to approve the local plan. Mindy Fattig, who is the SELPA director for Humboldt Del Norte SELPA, included kind of all the background information, what is required and why. I don't know if anybody has any questions beyond what was included in that letter. But this is something that all the members of Humboldt Del Norte SELPA will be approving and then getting back to her the signed certification page so that she can include it in the in her SELPA local plan.
Any questions for Sherry?
None.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the Humboldt Del Norte SELPA local plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'd just like to say that for everyone but Jeff, we have seen, and for Jeff's benefit, this, Sherry had said, this comes to us year in and year out. We're part of a much larger conglomerate, so to speak. And, we just play our part. And that's what this is all about. So it's necessary and very beneficial. So if there's no more discussion, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Guess the dog approves as well. And I also approve. Motion carries. Very good.
Wendy's home.
Okay. Moving on to 4.4, approval of the SCOE budget transfer resolution for Northern United Siskiyou Charter School. Sherry?
This is another document that you see on the regular because Siskiyou County Office of Education provides our business office services. When they prepare our first interim and need to transfer money within our fund, they have to have this adopted resolution by the board. And so it's a budget transfer resolution that allows them to make the necessary changes to go along with our first interim. And the background information is included, showing not only the resolution, but the changes that will be made within our fund.
Thank you. Any questions for Sherry?
I will just point out that this is one that actually requires Bianca's signature. So, Kirk, I think this was probably emailed to you at the same time it was emailed to me, but if not, I can certainly send it to you. But it would sure be a lot easier probably for you guys to just take care of it on your end rather than me mailing it or something, since you're there, Bianca. And I apologize, I'd forgotten about this one, or I would have emailed this one ahead of time too. But I'll work on that right now.
No problem.
So were there any questions for Sherry?
No.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the SCOE budget transfer resolution to NUSCS.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I also approve. Motion carries. 4.5, approval of extension of families' first Coronavirus Response Act paid leave for COVID-19.
That's a mouthful.
Yes. Yes.
So and Kirk, I did just email you that. I don't know if you saw it or not, that resolution for Bianca's signature. Okay, so you'll see in your board packet the background information on this. You may remember that the Families First Coronavirus Response Act was passed, and in there was a provision that was effective from April 1st to December 31st that generally it said that employees could receive up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave based on specific qualifying reasons. Some of those reasons were things like they got COVID, they had to take care of a family member that got COVID, things like that. Those provisions expired on December 31st, but schools have the option to extend that leave until March 31st, if they would like to. I'll let you know that as of now, no one has used this. It's not something that we've had to do. No one has had to take off for this reason, that required this, but I recommend that we do extend it because I think it's a nice thing for our employees. The schools, we do receive reimbursement up through March 31st. That was part of the act that was passed, was that they put money behind it. So, I don't know why we wouldn't offer this to our employees if they needed it. And like I said, it's just through March 31st, so it's not for much longer. So my recommendation is that we do approve this extension.
Thanks, Sherry.
Any questions?
Are there any questions for Sherry? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the extension of Families First Coronavirus Response Act paid leave for COVID-19.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say that I'm happy that we're able to extend these benefits to everybody. I'm glad that it came through.
Thank you, Bianca. I personally, concur wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All right, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
I also approve. Motion carries. 4.6, approval of board resolution to authorize participation in California School Finance Authority's ASAP program for cash flow finance borrowing. Sherry.
Another mouthful.
Yes.
So I just think that this would be a good opportunity to, I think, introduce Jason Rudolph, who is here. You've probably been seeing that name. He's from Young Mini and Core, who we have asked to be our borrowers counsel for this this loan program. So you saw how, hi Jason, we see
Hello.
you now.
Hi folks.
You see in the board packet information, the background that I give. You guys know, because of the deferrals this year and our particular apportionment schedule, that we in Humboldt will definitely be having a cash shortfall. Siskiyou, we're still unsure about. But because at this point, we're not having to make a firm commitment still yet, not until probably the end of February or possibly the very beginning of March, we feel like it's prudent to go ahead and move forward with adopting this resolution and loan documents, loan agreement for both schools, with Northern United Charter Schools as the borrower, until we have our second interim completed and can better analyze our cash flow projection for Siskiyou in particular. Humboldt, our second interim, is actually already done. And at this point, we're going to have a $370,000+ cash shortfall in June. So we know for sure Humboldt is going to need the cash. Siskiyou, like I said, we're kind of borderline, so we're still just a little unsure. So I gave you kind of the letter, all the resolution, the loan agreement and indenture. Also, I just wanted to point out, I want to make sure that everybody is looking at the correct resolution, because the one that originally came out with the board packet was updated, and I gave an updated resolution, sent that out. I don't know, I can share it if you don't have that one in front of you. Then I also gave you the estimate for the financing costs that will be accrued due to taking out the loan. I think that's probably about it. I mean, there's all the background information that I already gave you about how the money will be dispersed at the end of March for February and March, and then the end of April, end of May, end of June, kind of like the normal apportionment schedule that would happen. And then all of the paying back of the loan. To me, this is kind of one of the nicest things about this program. All of the paying back is kind of done behind the scenes automatically without us having to really do anything. It's taken out of the apportionment we would be getting next year as the state is paying us back for these deferrals. So that's kind of taken right off the top before we get our apportionments next year. So there's no chance of forgetting to pay or defaulting or something like that. This fiscal year, before the apportionments are given, there will be a certification that we're going to have to complete every month that states that we're still open, operating in good standing. Trying to think what else. I think that's, I'll just open it up for questions at this point. I think I've kind of covered all of the main points, but if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Sherry. I'll open it up for questions to Sherry.
Or
about,
Jason.
Or Jason, sure. About this, you know, it's a rather large document, and the accompanying document that you sent us, you know, the colorized chart and breakdown is pretty straightforward and all of that. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just go ahead.
Okay, Rosemary, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank Sherry for condensing a lot of that down for us in layman's terms. It was easy to follow, Sherry. Thank you for doing that.
Good. That's what happens when you're a teacher for a really long time.
Yep, your explanation was just straightforward and very easy to follow.
I'm just going to mirror Rosemary's comment. Thank you for taking the time to put all that in, you know, a great format. Wasn't as riveting as Rosemary's document that she liked, but you know, it kind of, you know, grabbed my attention in the sense that it's, you know, kind of the realization of what we're doing and how important it is. You know, and we're in some crazy times, and you know, we have to do multiple things at the same time sometimes. You know, tracking things and watching things, and I just, you know, I'm grateful that we got good Jason for what he does, and Sherry for what you do. You know, kind of guiding the ship, and you know, it's just it's a great feeling to know that, you know, we got good people at the helm. So.
So two things. I'd like to point out that my name is misspelled on the resolution.
No.
Okay.
Say that isn't so.
So I'm going to edit that. There's an R added into my first name in the second box.
Yep. In the second column. Yes. Yep. I see that. In the table, in the second table.
Yes.
And then I would like to ask Jason, like, is there anything that you want to point out to us? Sherry, you did a wonderful job, but is there anything that stands out to you that maybe is different from this, or just, you know, maybe reiterate what Sherry has to say?
Yeah, no, I will co-sign everything Sherry said, and she did a fantastic job of breaking down what is otherwise, you know, a straightforward, but sort of the mechanics of this program is very complicated. There are a lot of documents, so Sherry did just, you know, a fantastic job of breaking that down, and it is we're glad that this program is available to charter schools. There are not a lot of these low-cost financing options available to charter schools. And so to have this program available to remedy what we know are going to be some pretty significant deferrals, really is beneficial. And based on the comment that you just noted, the only thing I was going to verify is that you are looking at the right resolution. I'm mostly here today, as borrowers counsel in our office. We've just got to make sure that this resolution is properly adopted, signed, so that you don't lose out on this opportunity based on mere technicalities. So that's mostly here to observe, to make sure that this process goes correctly. And so far it has. It's been a well-run board meeting, I might add. So congratulations to all of you. But nonetheless, yes, the resolution looks good, and all the documents that Sherry provided are good as well.
So I'm sharing my screen just so you can see, Bianca. I have made that change here on my Word doc version, the original. So I will get this one. This is the one that will sign, the one that's been corrected. So I don't know, Jason, you can answer this. I don't know if when they adopt it, if they adopt this, if they need to say with that correction or not, if they need to say that it's been corrected or not.
No, as long as everyone's looking at this same resolution and then we're clear that this is the resolution that is up before the board for consideration and that this is the resolution that will be voted upon, then that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Jerry, I just want to point out too, I think Tammy and Linda both had their hands up when the board is finished.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let me let's move into making a motion, open up discussion, and then Tammy and Linda can make their comments at that time. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize participation in California School Finance Authority's ASAP program for cash flow finance borrowing.
Way low.
I second the motion.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? And as I understand, Tammy and Linda raised their hands. So Tammy, would you like to go first?
Just a little clarification. Sherry, you said that it was all taken care of behind the scenes as far as paying them back. Does that include the interest too? Is that going to get billed to us through AP? It includes interest too.
That actually is kind of taken off up front. They take all the cost of the loan, all the cost of issuance and everything up front out of the principal amount that we would have been getting, or out of the total amount we would have been getting.
Nice.
They made it pretty simple for us, which is nice.
Yeah. Anything else, Tammy? No? Well, thank you. Linda?
One question on that same table that Bianca's name was spelt wrong. Right above that, it says, as of the date hereof, the directors and officers of the corporation and the respective terms of office continue to be set as forth below. So shouldn't all the officers of the corporation and the directors of the board be listed in that table? And it's more of a question probably to Jason than to Sherry.
So the purpose of this table is really for the board members and those board members that are the officers and those board members and officers that will be voting on the resolution. This table was not originally included in the version of the resolution that the CSFA sent out. We added it as an extra measure of protection for the schools. We, in our review for a number of other schools that are participating in this program, it is difficult to confirm that all of their board members and officers were properly appointed, over the course of some cases 2, 3, and 5 years ago, getting that direct evidence and proof. So this is really just a fail-safe for us to ensure, basically saying, hey, we're ratifying all these folks that are appearing and voting upon this resolution tonight. We're re-ratifying their appointments as board members and officers, just to make sure that we are clean and that you don't, jeopardize eligibility based on a mere technicality that may have happened 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Okay, and then, so does Bianca sign it as co-chairman of the board, or do I sign it as secretary to the board on the last page
of the resolution? I don't have it in front of me, but whatever the signatory.
The certificate of secretary.
Oh, so the certificate, that will be the secretary of the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and my understanding, Jason, was that I'm sharing that page now, that this actually isn't signed right now. Is that correct? That this is something that happens later? Because I asked about this, I asked if we should fill in the dates. But then I think Sarah told me that it was going to be done later.
Well, the resolution, it should be fine to fill it out now, particularly the certificate secretary, because we are going to affirm that the board took this action on this date. And the secretary of the board will affirm that. It's essentially what the certificate is confirming. I will certainly double check with Sarah. There are some other documents that will certainly be signed at a later date.
Yeah.
But really, the resolution is what authorizes us to kind of proceed to the next steps of in the program.
Okay. And that's what I thought to begin with. At first, in fact, I had filled this out, but then I asked and I was told, no, this one actually comes later. That didn't make sense to me because it comes with the resolution. But okay. So you said Bianca would sign this then?
The board secretary, yes.
Okay.
And theoretically, this could be signed at a later date because it's simply affirming, in the role as, the officer, board member, and in the role as a secretary, the signatory is just affirming that this did happen on a particular date. So the actual signature doesn't technically have to occur on this date. It certainly can. There's nothing stopping it happening. But it's affirming that the action, the board action, the nonprofit board action occurred on this date.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to double check. Linda she's not on the board, but she's the secretary of the board. Bianca is on the board.
She's not the secretary of the board. She's secretary of the corporation.
Of the corporation.
Oh, corporation. Okay. Okay. So should I print it up here and then have Bianca sign it while she's here?
Sure. I'll email this to you. Now that I've corrected the name on the spelling of her name.
Are there any further or is there any further discussion? I would just like to compliment Sherry on the information that she provided, and if you didn't know this before or suspected it, this is what Sherry is really good at. This is, if you will, this is an expertise of Sherry, and so we're so lucky to have her to be able to, in conjunction with Tammy and our law firm, put this together, because this is a very large commitment that we're embarking on. We have no other choice, as Jeff had indicated, and so it is what it is, and we'll get through this, and this is what it's going to take to make things work for us throughout the remainder of the school year. So, is there any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Bianca?
Aye.
Rosemary?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I also approve. Motion carries.
Thank you, folks.
And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah,
compliment.
Jason, don't feel like you have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I won't. I'll stay. I'll
Thank
stay.
you, Jason.
Of course. Good
Thanks,
night,
Jason.
Yes, thank you.
Real entertainment is starting any time now, though.
Yeah.
Or if you have trouble sleeping, any of this.
All right. Section 5, reports. 5.1, enrollment and attendance report.
So
Sherry?
It's in your packet as always. And I don't, there's not really anything new to report. This is as of December 18th. So it'll, I know I've explained to you before why it's always so behind. Our attendance period runs on every 20-day period. And when the board packet has to come out is kind of just right before the next one is finalized. So, but anyway, things are looking good attendance-wise and enrollment-wise.
Any comments?
No.
No? Okay. Is there a motion? Or there's not. What am I saying? What motion? I'm stuck on this track. The attendance, being what it is, that's good. That's good for us. It bodes well. Well, thank you. Moving on to 5.2, financial report for NUHCS and NUSCS. Sherry or Tammy?
This just the monthly financials that is here every month. Just you've gone over them. It just shows what's going on for the month. If you have any questions, if there's something you want to ask about, go ahead.
Are there any questions, comments for Tammy?
Anything that purchases you might see out of the ordinary? I wouldn't think so at this time right now, but
Good job.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And 5.3, the director's report.
Okay. Well, I've already talked about reopening and the vaccine, and we've spoken about the loan. One thing I didn't say about the loan that I think is important to mention is that I have spoken with both HCOE and SCOE just to kind of keep them up to date on what's going on. I've been doing it all along. When we first thought we might have to get a loan, I've been giving them updates as we've been going. And they're going to help me in the decision about for Siskiyou, whether or not to take out a loan, and for Humboldt, how much to take. Kirk and I were just talking about this earlier, the idea that for sure in Humboldt, we'll have to take out the amount of cash shortfall we have, the $370,000 or whatever, plus then monthly operating expenses for the next month. And then maybe a certain percentage beyond that for kind of a cushion. But anyway, Humboldt HCOE is going to help me, determine that, how much we're going to take. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that I'm still staying in contact with them about this. Okay, I also wanted to report on facilities. Our facilities committee met again digitally and had some follow-up from our previous meeting. Just to give you an idea of some of the things that happened in this since the last time we met. You may recall when the first time we met, we kind of divvied up some different duties or assignments to go do to follow up on. And then when we came back, we reported on what we had determined so far. Rebecca looked into 2 different places that we had considered. One is Sacred Heart, which is a Catholic church here in Eureka, and they have a school facility that they lease out all the different classrooms to individual tenants. They don't have a school there. And so that was one of the places that we reached out to, and they feel like they're satisfied with the tenants they have at this time. She also spoke with Dave Smith, who is a local realtor. He had students enrolled at both what is now Cutton Learning Center and Eureka Learning Center when we were Matole. He had reached out for us on our behalf to the new landlord at a church on Harris that we had been interested in before. And that landlord said that they would rather rent to multiple entities rather than one. So I don't know that that one's going to work for us, but that particular realtor that she's been talking to, it was going to speak with his boss, who evidently is the #1 commercial property agent in Humboldt County, to see if there were any other properties that would potentially work for us. So that's kind of all of the updates from the facilities committee at this point, and we will continue to meet and give updates and explore new options as we go. Okay, another kind of big area that we're working on right now is, believe it or not, but it's time for our WASC review again. And so that will happen next year. And Jeff, just for your benefit, WASC stands for Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and they are the organization that accredits high schools. And so what that means is if you have a WASC accreditation, your graduates, the students who graduate from your school, can go to 4-year universities in California or anywhere that accepts WASC accreditation, any place that accepts accreditations. Without a WASC accreditation, your graduates can still go to a 2-year college or a private school, but not a 4-year state school. So WASC, what the process for getting your WASC accreditation is, you as a school staff do what's called a self-study, and it's pretty much a year-long deep dive into your educational program. And you write a report on what you find. There are 5 chapters to this report, 5 tasks, and each chapter is kind of a different thing. So the first chapter is basically kind of who you are. What is your educational program? What is your philosophy? Who are you? What kinds of students go to your school? Why would somebody choose your school? That kind of just the description of you. That's the first chapter. Second chapter is your data and kind of an analysis of your data. How many of your students go to a 4-year school? How many of your students graduate with A through G eligibility, meeting A through G eligibility? What is your suspension rate? All of the data associated with your school. That's the second chapter. Third chapter is kind of, again, a deep dive into particular areas. There's areas of focus that your staff looks at. Kurt can rattle off those areas of focus just like that, which I can't. And then the fourth chapter is what are your strengths and weaknesses? Now that you've looked at the data, now that you've really looked closely at your educational program, what are your strengths and weaknesses? That's the fourth chapter. The fifth chapter is what is your plan to address your weaknesses? So Once you get this whole self-study done and come up with this plan, you submit it to WASC, and they send a visiting committee out to your school. And they, after having read your report, they're coming to look for evidence to or examples to confirm what you wrote in your report. They, for the most part, agree with all of the things you say were areas of needed growth, and they may find some areas of needed growth that they would add to your list. But they're basically coming out to confirm what you found in your self-study. So the visiting committees will come to both Humboldt and Siskiyou next spring. Humboldt, they will come February 14th through the 16th, and Siskiyou, they will come March 7th through the 9th. We have to have our self-study uploaded to their portal for them to review. I think it's like 4 or 6 weeks before they come. So it's in January or so is when we have to have our self-study completed. So we have started now. In Humboldt, our WASC coordinator will be Mary Havens. In Siskiyou, it's Kirk Miller. And we have already started meeting to come up with a timeline for kind of backwards planning. Okay, so the document has to be done by this date. So let's kind of backwards plan everything that we need to do. Starting with now, we're starting to put things together now. We have our next whole school professional development is in March. And so we're starting there with putting everybody in groups, in different groups to work on the WASC self-study, and we'll continue to work on it as a whole staff until we submit the document. At our fall back to school in-service, a lot of time will be spent there as well doing this. But our goal is to complete chapters 1 and 2 before the end of this year, and then the remainder in the fall. And I think that's probably about it to update for the WASC self-study now. I guess I didn't kind of finish. After the visiting committee comes, they write up their findings and their recommendation, and they submit them to the WASC board. And then the WASC board votes on, maybe it just accepts their recommendation. But what the recommendation is whether or not you receive WASC accreditation, and if so, for how long. So the longest can be for 6 years, a full 6 years accreditation can be offered. Another option is a 6-year accreditation with a mid-cycle review, meaning they're going to come back out at year 3 to just check in, but you are accredited for the 6 years. That one's probably the most common, but also you can not get accredited, or you can get like a probationary 1-year accreditation where they'll come again in a year. They kind of give you a year to get your act together and they'll come again. Just so you know, Jeff, we are currently WASC accredited. When we started our schools, we had to do, we did an initial accreditation, which is a little bit different process than what this full self-study is. It was kind of an abbreviated version of it. They do that for brand new schools so that you can kind of get started with accreditation. But anyway, I think that's it for WASC. I thought I would just give a little update on our intervention groups. As you guys know, we have been meeting with students one-on-one, and in Siskiyou, it's not too many. I think there are just a couple, just a small handful of students meeting with their teacher one-on-one in person for intervention groups. The rest of the intervention is being done using Zoom or Google Meets or whatever. And then in Humboldt, there's approximately 21 students that are being met face-to-face in person, spread out through all the different learning centers and with special ed. Like about 8 of those students are special ed students, and the remainder are students that just needed more kind of one-on-one intervention. This is happening at Eureka Learning Center, Bryceland Learning Center, Cutton Learning Center, Willow Creek Learning Center. And then in Siskiyou, it's at Eureka Learning Center. It's happening. And so far, so good. I've gotten so many positive reports on those face-to-face interventions. It's making a big difference. The kids are so thankful. Kids and families both are so thankful that that's happening. Another just quick thing. The person that we had mentioned before about a potential new board member in Siskiyou said that she is interested. And so I spoke with her this week and gave her the application. She was going to join us tonight if she could, but she was driving to Montana tomorrow morning. And so she wasn't sure if she was going to have everything packed up, the kids ready and everything, the car loaded tonight to be able to join us. But she has the application and she will be filling that out and getting it back to us. And so as soon as we have that back, I'll be reaching out to you guys. Either we may do a special board meeting. It's going to depend on the timing, about doing an interview or, an opportunity for you guys to speak with her. But anyway, I'm excited about that. And then my final update, and this is kind of a big one, I think I mentioned it before, our medical insurance is undergoing a major overhaul. So what is happening is currently the plans that are being offered are a combination of what's called composite plans and tiered plans. And this, I just have to say too, this all has to do with the rate structure, the way that we pay for insurance, not the plans themselves. Coverage isn't changing. Coverage is the same. But what is changing is the rate structure. So right now, like I said, we have a combination of composite plans and tiered plans. And what that means is a composite plan is you pay one price regardless of how many people you have on that policy. So me, for example, I'm on a policy called Oak Plan, and I pay a set price, and it's me and my husband and my 2 kids on it. Well, somebody else who is a single person can be on that same plan and they pay the same price. So a composite plan, you pay one price for no matter how many people are on there. A tiered plan is the employee pays one price just for themselves if they're the only person on it. If they add a spouse on it, it's an additional cost. If they add a child on it, it's an additional cost. If it's a family, it's an additional cost. Or a different cost. So composite versus tier. And like I said, we have a combination of both of those currently. We are changing to where it's going to be all tiered plans. And our North Coast Schools Medical Insurance Group, which is the medical insurance JPA that our schools belong to, are making this change kind of in a phased-in approach. So it's not going to be effective until July 1, 2022.
What happened?
I don't know, but that's a weird image of Sherry there.
Yeah.
Kind of a Halloween kind of thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if her power went out or something.
Yeah, there's definitely.
She's calling me.
Okay.
Hello?
I don't know, Bianca, my power goes out all the time. So that's just personal. I mean, not my house or anything. That's just me. My screen goes blank quite often.
Okay, so yes, the power went out in the building suddenly. So she's going to join on her phone as soon as she can.
Oh, wow.
Jerry, can we take a quick recess?
Oh, absolutely. We'll recess. 10 minutes be fine?
Yeah.
Or what? Okay, so it's 5:38. 48. So let's come back at 10 till. Okay, so we'll recess until that time.
That's close.
It is 5:48. All right. And Sherry, do you remember where you left off? We're still dealing with 5.3 director's report.
Okay, is everybody back? You want me to keep going?
Yes.
I was almost done too. So we're switching to all tiered plans, and it's going to be a phased in approach. But schools do have to make a decision if they want to go ahead and move to the all tiered plans this upcoming school year, or calendar year, I should say, in terms of when it's effective, or wait until the following year when everybody has to. And I do think that probably we are going to have to switch to the all tiered plan now, as opposed to waiting until July 1st, 2022, because you guys might remember with the Affordable Care Act, one of the parts of it said that employers had to offer employees an affordable option for health care. And that was determined based on a certain percentage of an employee's income. So a plan you have to have an option that doesn't cost more than a certain percentage. And I think it's like 9-point-something% of an employee's income. So having an affordable plan is a requirement. And for the composite rate plans, they are more expensive. None of the composite rate plans are affordable with the employer contribution toward healthcare cap that we have. So I think we will probably have to switch to the all tiered to be compliant with Affordable Care Act earlier than the July 1st, 2022. I think we'll have to switch at the July 1, 2021. And that was it.
Well,
Good
thank
rebound.
you, Sherry. Yeah. Any comments or questions for Sherry?
I have a couple. I can't raise my hand because you wouldn't be able to see it, Jerry.
Okay. Well, I can't see it anyway.
The first one has to do with the Humboldt WASC visit, February 14th through the 16th. Is that a conflict with President's Break? Oh, it is.
President's Break is no, it's not. It's not. President's Break is the following week.
Oh, okay. And my second really isn't a question. It's more of a comment getting back to the Sacred Heart facility. They think they're happy with their current tenants. They don't realize how happy they could be with us. And those were my two comments.
All right.
Thank you. So, Rosemary, does that mean you're going to do some behind the scenes conversing?
I sure hope so.
I have no connections there. None.
Oh. You got to work on that
would be
then.
an ideal spot. It's all set up for the classrooms, the cafeteria, beautiful backyard, so to speak, for a playground. Really should be a school.
Yeah. Well, just keep our fingers crossed. You just never know. You never know.
Something will come up.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Sherry. So
I have a
5.4.
question.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, Kurt.
And maybe you don't know, but I'm just kind of curious how much the school's contribution would have to go up to make it so that there was a affordable composite plan.
You know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that yet, but as a way for districts to be able to figure that out, the North Coast Schools Medical Insurance Group is going to give us a calculator. They've developed some sort of, tool that they're sharing with us so that we can calculate, if a person's income is this much, or I don't exactly know what you would input, but there is going to be a tool that we're going to be provided that will let us know what a minimum, cap needs to be.
Okay.
So I don't know yet, but I will.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment for
Right.
Sherry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just shows how resilient she really is.
Yep. 5.4 Northern United Humboldt Charter School Report. You'll see that is in our packet. Giving us an idea of what's been going on. A couple pictures. Any comment?
Do we know how much money was made at the Mod Pizza fundraiser?
The one this week?
Yeah.
The one last night?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
All right. Northern United Siskiyou Charter School Report. It's also here in our packet. Any comments or questions? Don't want to add anything, Kurt?
Not that I can think of. And sorry, I didn't come up with any pictures this time. I know how you guys like to see what's going on.
I know. It's like, what? Look at that. It's barely half a page.
I have some pictures of some serious snow shoveling that I could send you, but that's not really related to the school. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. 5.6 board report. Let's start with Bianca. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Rosemary?
No, have nothing.
Jeffrey?
I have 0.
Okay. I have nothing either. So we'll move on to section 6, discussion items. So 6.1, employer contribution towards health and welfare. Sherry?
Yeah, this one I think is probably going to be on here next month as well. So March, well, let me back up a second. I know it probably seems odd to, on the same agenda, have an item about taking out a loan and the idea of increasing our employer contribution to health and welfare. But I just want to remind you that the reason we're taking out the loan is purely a cash flow issue. In Humboldt, in particular, I know we've already gotten the second interim back. And so looking at what our ending balance is for this year, next year, and the years out, our ending balance, or what if we were a district, what you would call your reserve, looks really good. It's very healthy.
Okay.
It's more like it's approximately 25%, which 10% is what we're required to have based on our MOU with HCOE. So with that said, I do think that once we have the cash flow issue behind us, that we can look toward either increasing our employer contribution toward health and welfare or something. That would be my hope. The rates for our medical insurance will be set in March. So that's when we'll know what the costs will be for the next year. And then, like I said to Kirk just a few minutes ago, we're going to be getting a calculator that's going to be supplied by the North Coast Schools Medical Insurance Group that will help us to determine what our employer contribution cap would need to be so that we could have an affordable plan that would be a composite plan. The other idea here, the other thought on this is I looked into what the average employer contribution cap is in Humboldt County, and it is $14,600. Ours is $12,368. So we're a little below average. So at the very least, it would be nice to bring it up to the average. Now in Siskiyou, we're way above the average. The average in Siskiyou is 6,000 something. I can't remember what it was, but 6,000 something is the cap in the Siskiyou side. So we're about double what the average cap is for Siskiyou, but under what the average cap is in Humboldt. So you recall that we put this item on the agenda because this was something that we had a teacher come to a board meeting and bring this up as a point of concern, which it is a valid concern. In particular this year, our health insurance keeps going up every month, but our contribution from our employer is not. And this year in particular, not only did our insurance go up, but everybody's salaries, you'll recall, were frozen. So nobody got any kind of cost of living adjustment or any kind of step and column type increase. So this year feels like you're getting paid less than you did last year because the health insurance, what's taken out of your paycheck for your health insurance is more than it was last year, yet your salary stayed the same. So I do think it's important for us to take a look at this. Not only am I advocating for being able for next year, everybody to get an increase since no one did this year, but also possibly increasing the employer contribution toward health and welfare. We're just at the beginning stages of talking about this, but I'll open it up for you guys. I'm wondering if there's anything that you would like to see next month, because I plan on putting this on the agenda again as a discussion item next month, and I will update you at that time of what the rates are looking like, what that calculator is, what that looks like. But is there anything else that you would want to see, or do you have any questions for me? Something you'd want me to bring back? Also, next meeting, we'd have hopefully Siskiyou's second interim as well, so we can take a look at what their ending balance is going to look like.
Any questions or comments for Sherry?
I think, go ahead, Rose.
Go ahead. Nope, you go ahead, sweetie.
I think I'd like to see some sort of graph with the data that you've described, what the average yes, easily digestible, but just having all that data of what the various percentages are, the various salaries are, what the averages are for not only Siskiyou and Humboldt, but maybe the state. I think something of that nature would be great and helpful.
Rosemary?
I was going to say basically the same thing. Anything that we could look at as a comparison would be great. And Tammy, I see that you're nodding your head. You must really look at your face. Yeah, all right. We'll look forward to seeing what you can do. Work your magic for us.
Any comment, Jeff?
I'm just absorbing right now. I mean, you guys are above the curve, with your experience, and so I'm listening a lot.
Well, good. I would just say that, visuals are good. So we can, that works for me, and where I can see it and, see the comparisons sort of side by side. And also, once the calculator comes out, all this various information, that is available, then we just put it all together and, look at some options. As we all know, care costs continually go up and have been, and it's certainly not going to all of a sudden start going down. So we look forward to further information dealing with this. So
and
so good.
I feel like this is really tied in with the changes in the rate structure with the JPA right now too. I mean, I think that this is a good time for us to take a look at it. There have been a lot of talks of some of the different superintendents about the idea of doing a tiered cap. And so that's something else that I'm trying to learn about and see how that will work. But I will definitely bring back a lot of information next month so we can take a look at this. And, Tammy is, as you guys know, she's really good at putting together charts of data for things like, how much is, if we increased, say, to the 14,600, which is the average in Humboldt County, how much is that going to cost us in Humboldt? How much is that going to cost us in Siskiyou? How does that affect our ending balances? So we can bring all that information to you next month. But I think my goal for this month was really just kind of to get a feeling from you all if this is a direction that you would want to go. If, assuming we could afford it, if this was something, increasing the employer contribution cap, if that's something that, you guys would want me to pursue.
Okay. We'll just, obviously, if anybody comes up with a question or wanting some particular bit of information, you can just email that to Sherry, and that way she'll be able to look into it, more than enough time between now and the meeting in March. So, okay. Moving on to section 7, the next board meeting, 7.1, possible agenda items. Sherry's already outlined a few that would be on the agenda for next month. Anything else, Sherry, that you can recall from your memory because you're not in your
I know. Well, both second interims will be on there. The audit reports will be there. So it's kind of a big agenda. And then, of course, the reopening criteria and the discussion on insurance again.
Right.
And probably more loan stuff, but I don't know that for sure.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, it's so dark.
No, that's all right.
We're used to seeing you like that.
Just glad you're safe.
Okay. Yes. So 7.2 is next board meeting date, March 11, 4 p.m. And keep. I guess I would, possible going back to possible agenda item or something between now and definitely next month's meeting. As soon as Sherry gets the application packet materials back from the potential Siskiyou candidate. And then she and I will talk and we can discuss whether or not, timing as to when to deal with that. So that's on the horizon as well. So, okay. Well, with that, it is, Linda, it is 6:09, and I'll adjourn this board meeting.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And
Thank you, everybody.
Sorry.
Bye.
Bye.
Drive safe.